Hello to my Paladin brother and sisters out there. So today we're going to touch on the overall recommendations from a talent covenant perspective as we jump into 9.25. Now, Holy Paladin did see some nerfs to their overall damage throughput as we were jumping into 9.2, but with the tier set rolling out, it's going to come. It's actually not going to be that dramatic. So we'll touch on that here as we work through the different talent builds. As you'll see here really quickly, we've got a couple different recommendations out there. So from a rating perspective, you've got a choice. You can go with Light's Hammer or you can go with Bestowed Faith. And that really just kind of comes down to ultimately what your playstyle looks like. I usually prefer Light's Hammer, to be honest with you, but that's because I jump between rating and Mythic Plus. And for Mythic Plus, Light's Hammer is the way to go. So the fewer talents I need to manage, the better off I'm going to be. Tier 2, Judgmental Light for both Rating and Mythic Plus. Tier 3, it really kind of comes down to what your group requires. Mythic Plus, Blinding Light's usually the way that I go, just having an AoE disorient effect. Alternatively, having a Hammer of Justice off of cooldown a little bit faster is always attractive. Tier 4, Rule of Law is my preferred go-to. Tier 5, Divine Purpose again. Tier 6, Awakening is pretty much your go-to, having Word of Glory and Light of Dawn, letting you drop wings a little more often. Like that's absolutely fantastic. And then there's I don't want to call it a lot of controversy. There's a little bit of discussion here around where you want to go with. I like Beacon of Faith, certainly for rating. That's been my go-to for a long, long time. Alternatively, I've seen some arguments that Glimmer could be a choice. It's kind of underwhelming from a talent perspective. There's a lot of guides out there that are saying that Beacon of Virtue is the recommended way to go once you've got your 4-set and your double legendary in place. And arguably that could be true, but there's a little bit of work required to complement that. So for me, definitely in rating, sometimes in Mythic Plus, I'm going to stick with Beacon of Faith. Just it's got a real nice passive complement to the overall game style. So to touch on Legendaries a little bit, Legendaries are pretty straightforward in terms of the different builds you're going to go with. It really kind of comes down first to what Covenant. Ashen Hollow, the Venthyr side, is super popular still. Definitely in the Mythic Plus space for groups compositions that are really looking just to burn down their opponents. Additionally, Necro's a real solid choice for both the we'll call it the Mythic Plus space, but also we're seeing it quite a bit in rating. It's actually the recommended go-to. So from a population perspective, over 40% of players are playing Necrolord right now. Coming in second is Kyrian, and we'll touch on that in a minute. And then finally Venthyr in third. Night Fae, it's like 1% of the population. That you just won't see a lot of Night Fae holy pals out there. So the reason that I like Kyrian, ultimately, Kyrian is the best for Ret. Ret doesn't have a whole lot of other choices. Kyrian is fantastic for Prot, both in an AoE and single target perspective. And yeah, it's coming in probably second, third place overall from a popularity standpoint. I like my hybrid Paladin to be as hybrid as possible. So I'm sticking with Kyrian rather than swapping as I swap through different content on an hourly basis. But it really comes down to what your choices are. For rating, you probably want to go with Venthyr. Just having the Ashen Hollow for your full group is going to make a massive difference. Necrolord is definitely a viable alternative. If you're into Mythic Plus, you're really going to go with Necrolord. That's going to be your recommended path forward. Venthyr is really good as well for the burst damage that you get. Kyrian is also probably as good as Necrolord, honestly, when it comes to Mythic Plus composition. So you're in great shape. I just recommend avoiding Night Fae, whatever that plays out like. If you are going with Kyrian in Mythic Plus, you can probably start to incorporate some Glimmer of Light builds. You can get away from Beacon of Faith, really because Glimmer has a bit of a synergy here with Divine Toll in terms of holy power generation. Yeah, makes a real solid kind of complement to your group. That's kind of like the big takeaways, I'd say, from a talent build slash Covenant perspective, and you almost need to tell the story that way because the two complement themselves in that kind of manner. So overall, yeah, not a lot of craziness going on with respect to Paladins, but a lot of fun. Really, just a ton of fun. They're in a really overall fun playstyle right now, and like I'm going to continue rolling with them for the foreseeable future. From a legendary perspective, there's a couple that are really noticeable. If you're going for Necrolord, you've got to load up on Memory of Unity, and what's going to complement that build, I should say, is Memory of Murad's Dying Breath, and that's become a really popular one across most of the Paladins that are out there. Just really gives your target and you a bit of an additional spot heal. So tons of fun in that space. Alternatively, there's a couple other different builds that are out there. You can go with Shock Barrier. That's got a nice synergy with Kieran's Divine Toll as well. So like there's some fun gameplay to be had there. Alternatively, the Inflorescence of the Sunwell, really just kind of giving Holy Light an additional ability, or an ability to generate twice as much holy power, which is always a ton of fun. Nice to get that rolling. Alternatively, Shadowbreaker Dawn of the Sun. It's really fun in raiding if you're going to rock it there, just giving you that increased range and healing to Light of Dawn. Like don't actually overestimate what it's suggesting though. You're not actually getting an increase in range of 40 yards. It's really just boosting the overall cone that the Light of Dawn gives your player. So keep those things in mind. Overall, I don't know, I think we're in a great spot for the most part. I'm really happy with how the class has stuck together. I was holding my breath when we seen the 9.2 nerfs that came in place, but Holy's still a great class that you can complement a group with. Doesn't matter what your overall composition looks like. Alright folks, let me know, what are the things that I missed on? What are the things that you completely disagree with? Obviously everybody likes to criticize talent, so here's them one more time. Let me know what we could have done better, differently, and I'll talk to y'all soon. Thanks for watching. Peace.